only a few will be saved, they ask the Lord. And he says many will try to enter through the narrow gate, but they won't be strong enough. They won't be strong enough. Why? Because of their faith. I was listening to the clergy who were answering who were asked the question, what do you think Rome thinks about you? And they're referring to the independent Catholic priest versus the Roman Catholic priest. An independent Catholic priest answered, I was called by God. I'm doing God's work. I really don't care what other people think of my ministry. And I said, that is so true in all of our journeys. Because when you invite people to ministry life, they always say, what will people think? Because I'm up on the altar. And they don't want to be part of ministry life because of what people might say about them. We are all God's children. We're all called by God. So sometimes we're sinners, but that shouldn't deter us from doing God's work. God calls us to be His children, to do His work. Because many are called and few are chosen, says Matthew. But I think that we don't think about our sinfulness, concentrate on our faith, that we are God's children, we can enter that narrow gate that Jesus talks about being difficult to go through. Our responsibility as God's children is to perform the corporal works of mercy, which are feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, welcome the stranger, visit the sick, bury the dead, and what else? To spread the good news that talks about in the first reading, the good news that we're all children of God, right? All children of God. In the second reading of Hebrews, it talks about discipline. And St. James says, consider it a joy when you encounter the trials of life. For it is by testing of your faith that you build up perseverance. And I don't think God punishes us. And I don't think God punishes because of the fact that we have a merciful and a loving God. And even though we're sinful, He doesn't punish us. May correct us, may correct our path. And God, we have to think that God never abandons us. The trials that we endure are because of God's love and mercy. He helps us through those difficult times in our life. In ministry life, I visited this gentleman, and when I went to visit for the first time, he was in a wheelchair. And sat down, he said, God punished me. I'm in a wheelchair. He said, I had a heart attack. Now, I'm not mobile. I have to use a wheelchair. And so, prayed, shared the Eucharist with him. And when I was getting ready to leave, he turned to me and he says, God didn't punish me. He said, I used to drink a lot, not take care of myself, my health. He said, I'd stay out for days. Mistreated my body. That's what happened. That's how I got a heart attack. And see, God doesn't punish us, even though I think sometimes we think that God punishes us. But He always gives us the things that we need, not necessarily the things that we want, because we all want to hit that lotto and lay back and relax, but yeah, He gives us what we need, and He's always with us. And that's why we have to think that to enter that narrow gate, we just have to be faithful. Our faith has to be stronger. And we don't have to think of ourselves of not being worthy of being God's children. Because we're all His children. We're all children of God. Even if we sin, we have that merciful God. And so, we are tried by fire and then led to the table of the good. The table of refreshment. Or we can say, God leads us through that narrow path that sometimes we find so difficult to journey through because of what we think. Or sometimes we don't think that we're God's children, but we're all God's children, and we're all worthy to enter that narrow path. Amen?
Amen.